I'm not a victim of my life. What I went through pulled the warrior out of me, and it's my greatest honor to be her.
Hey there, this is Women on the Brink. I'm your host, Chris Jeffrey, a registered acupuncturist and wellness advisor with a passion for helping women live happier and more balanced lives. When I'm away from work, I'm usually outside in nature, either walking the seawall or I'm hiking in the mountains. And like many of you, my life has been filled with moments of hardship, some that I thought I couldn't overcome and really left me questioning my own strength. But through these challenges, I discovered resilience, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm here to share not just my journey, but the lessons I've learned, and to remind you that no matter what obstacles come your way, there's always a path forward. Welcome back to Women on the Brink, where today we're going to dive into a story about resilience, transformation, and the human spirit. So, around 6 months ago, I had the privilege of meeting someone whose story has stayed with me ever since. Ekaterina, also known as Kate, faced an incredible challenge as a teenager, being diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma. But what struck me most wasn't just the adversity she encountered, it was the way that she met it, with courage and determination and a perspective that we can all learn from. So today she's here to share that story with us, what it was like to face such a diagnosis at a young age, the lessons, she's carried forward, and how it shaped the woman who she is today. So, Kate, thank you very much for being here and sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me to this podcast. And I'm super thrilled to share my story today.
So I understand that as a teenager, you were diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma. When you got that diagnosis, how did you and your family receive the news? Because you were only, 18 or 19 at the time?
That is correct. I've been 18.
So how was that for you and your family? That's big news to be receiving as a teenager.
I think at that time it was a shock because it was my spring break holidays. I went from Canada back home to see my friends and family, and definitely was planning to stay there for a few weeks and then go back here. And my summer plans changed within a week, and my whole life actually changed from within a week. So I think it was definitely a shock. And in such a circumstance, everything was happening so quick and the decision making supposed to happen so quick. So I find that at that time, we didn't have enough time to actually process the news at all. We understand what it brings and how we're supposed to feel as well. And I think people who might went through similar circumstances in their life may relate to this. And I find that all this emotional burden and luggage is just like carrying over with us for years until whether we choose to deal with this or we choose to deny this. I think this is where people are different. Some people prefer to avoid hardships, and there are others who find strength and admitting it and living with it and taking the most of it.
Face it on, but it's not easy to do when you're in that state. And especially as a teenager, most teenagers don't have the tools to process that kind of information, right?
I think I don't remember myself much as a teenager anymore.
Wow.
But I don't think I did even have a choice to be a teenager. And in our culture, 18 years old is not a teenage life anymore.
You're an adult.
Yes, in our culture, it's an adulthood. And therefore, the way you respond to such circumstances, I think it's in our culture to kind of give it a harder emotional feeling and trying to hide. And I think to your previous questions, this is what in our culture is very common, is to hide our emotions, and it shows the strength of the person.
To be strong and resilient means to not show the emotion that you're actually feeling at the time. And what is your cultural background? Can you just tell the audience?
Yes, I am Russian in my background.
Right. So the culture dictates that in order to be perceived as strong, that you're not to show your emotion and just carry on, right?
Yes. And I think this is where the difference of expressing and living with this was different for me, because I did stay in Canada at that time. And in here, the society taught me that there is a new era of communication and openness. And I think this is where I was first time exposed to understanding of what I call wellness or mindfulness right now. And I realized that the wellness aspect of this is actually accepting things and talk about them or share it, or at least accept them with yourself and don't pretend that everything is great. It's not about just like your appearance on the public and your face. And it's about also like daily things. Like in our culture, it's such a tendency to come home and continuously denying the actual things. Whether I've learned that it doesn't help, it doesn't serve me anymore. And I realize that I need to accept the changes that I have and accept obviously the outcomes of it too, and circumstances. Like my lifestyle is supposed to change, my attitude towards life supposed to change, my communication with people changed because my values has changed.
Right.
Um,
Let's just back it up a little bit, though. So, at the time, here you are, you've received this news, and you didn't have time to process the news, nor did your family, because you had to just move on to medical treatments. Is that correct?
yes. So I was back home, and we were lucky enough to have resources at that time to go to South Korea for different medical checkups. They have phenomenal medical system for people from overseas. You just pay like a certain fee and you just do a whole body checkup. And we've done it quite a few times with my family on regular basis. And that was one of them. And I turned 18 and my parents like, well, it's time to kind of give yourself some time for your body investment. So we did this. And as a result, this came up. So yeah, the diagnosis was right away third stage melanoma cancer. It's a skin cancer. The trick of it doesn't show, like it's not like your organs are failing or anything. It's just like it's within the skin, and then it goes into like your bloodstream, right? If there are any cells. The hardest part here is because when we are young, our bloodstream is so quick, and
Spreads
therefore
quickly.
it spreads so quickly, right?
Hmm.
And the diagnosis was there, but we didn't know what stage was it until was the surgery, because they did a profound test on me prior to surgery, finding out that I do have some cells in my body and they were on the left side of the arm.
So things had started to spread. So did you go through chemo or radiation, or did you go straight into surgery?
No, all of this was as a post recovery treatments. So at first they do the surgery.
So
So
immediately they removed the melanoma from the skin, and then you subsequently went into radiation and chemo.
So not a chemo, thanks God.
Okay, okay.
So they have a contrast system where they put a contrast liquid in your stream, and within an hour they can kind of do a body scan, and it shows with a different color if there's any cells are in your body.
Any
And so
cancer cells?
any cancer cells. So instead of like doing a whole body chemo and trying to aim something that you don't know where it goes or where
Ah, this can be directed.
we did it's called the radiotherapy. So that one is directly was just pointed at my back and left side where the cells found. So that was 6 weeks of that treatment, and I've been doing it every day for 6 weeks. So I stayed in South Korea, and then they said, well, you are good to go, like, and fly. And the next year 2 years, and then 5 mark, and then 10 mark will be your kind of your next goals, and you can go. And this is, I bought the different medical treatments with me to Canada, which were immunotherapy injections, and I've done them for another year, 3 times a week. So you kind of boost immunotherapy into your body. I've done that for a year, and I've been going to Korea every 3 weeks, flying from Canada to Korea
Wow.
for checkups. And within 2 days, they do the entire check on you and all the blood work and everything, making sure your sugar level is good, your cholesterol is good, everything, because the diet is really important in this stage as well. This
Mhm.
is where about lifestyle changes too.
So how long
And
did you have to do this for, this going back and forth from South Korea and Canada
the first year was the hardest because it was so like
every
every
3 months?
and I remember my spring break, and I had like final exams on the dates when I was supposed to go to Korea.
You were
And
still going to school
yeah,
throughout all of this?
I just applied to Capilano, so I couldn't skip the Capilano University.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness, I didn't know that. You were
yeah,
still carrying on with your studies through all of your treatment.
well, I think it was everything happened within one summer. So I had a choice to drop, and I said, no, I'm not dropping it. So I just joined Kaplan University 3rd year program, business school. And in between, yeah, the courses, I was flying there. And I remember it was such a fun trip because I was supposed to have a final exam right on the date when I'm arriving from Korea in the evening. And so I took all the books with me, and I had like 3 day trip to Korea, like express trip. And in the airport, and there I was always studying for this exam. And then I flew from Korea, and I went straight to university with my luggage, and I did pass the final exam.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Wow. And so what happened after this? Did you still have to go back and forth for a period afterwards?
Yes, so the first year mark, when it's done, there was a tendency to go then once every 6 months
Mhm.
for some time, and then once we hit, I don't remember, maybe 3 year mark or 5 year mark, actually, we could have gone once a year. Right now, it's been 10 year mark. I did a few years ago. So now when you feel like going, it would be great. So I really want to go maybe next year because I had a baby too, and it kind of shifts the hormonal and body changes. So I just want to make sure I'm good.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, here you are. You're 18, 19. You've gone through major surgery to have this melanoma removed, and then you're going back and forth from Canada to South Korea to get these treatments. Plus, you're going to college at the same time. Did you finish college?
Well, Catalan University is not a college anymore. It used to be a
No,
university.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. That's true. When I
They
went, it was a college. They
recently
turned over
changed.
to a university.
Of course, yeah, I finished a business HR degree. And I also, meantime, I also found a part-time job in Park Royal because I needed to do some kind of a part-time job to sustain my living, but also start working towards the work experience because my plans was to stay and get a passport here and permanent residence. And for that, you needed a work experience. So I didn't want to be finishing university and then waiting for years, my experience and so on, because it could have taken me another 7 years, 5 to 7 years. So I decided to study and work together so I can hoping to speed up my permanent residence program as well.
Right, because you had come into Canada as a student, right? A foreign
Yes.
international student. Okay. So, I mean, let's just talk about this for a minute because this is a lot of information. Here you are, you're this international student from Russia in Canada. You go home for a visit and you go over to South Korea and you have this test that sounds like you guys do frequently just to make sure that everything is in order. And they find that you have melanoma. And so you start treatments, but you're doing them from Canada as a student and going back and forth to and from Korea while trying to get a degree. So I understand now why it would be so hard to process your emotions around all of this at the time, because when did you have time to process it?
I think, Chris, you mentioned it right. At that stage, I didn't know at that time, but now I look at it backwards and I realize that I guess I wanted to escape from that feeling that I'm sick. So that's why I decided not to stay next to my family. I refused their care and support. They were helping me definitely financially and resourcefully to sustain living here and all this medical system as well. But like emotionally support, I refused.
And was that because still there was, I think you mentioned to me, you had felt because people didn't want to talk about it, there was a lot of shame around the cancer diagnosis that, people would just wanted to kind of sweep it under the carpet. So is that what you felt you were trying to escape from, where there was this non-acceptance of being sick?
I think at that time it wasn't my space to recover.
Can you just explain what you mean by that?
Well, when it happens to you, I ask myself a question: do you want to leave, or do I want to continue or create this aura of like guilt and I'm dying? So I didn't want to do this. And I felt like I need to strive and challenge my attitude and life kind of thing. Like, okay, I will survive this. I will go through this against all the odds and statistics and so on. Let's give it a try. So I just, when you do this kind of commitment and agreement with yourself, 101, you start realizing what could prevent it from happening or can be an obstacle. At that time, I felt like my family could have been an obstacle or kind of distraction for me to challenge or keep my agreement with myself. For me, I realized that I really love to be alone. Like the quietness of being alone for me is not scary at all. I found out that I do love that state of being alone because of this. Yeah, at that time, I just felt like the energy, like it just was like so much, frustration and at the same time, helplessness and overwhelming and sadness. And, there's so much. And every parent, every family member were experiencing different feelings, I assume, right? It has to be. I don't know. I never talked to them about it. Nobody talked to me about them. I just assume.
Yeah,
But by
because
no,
it's part of the culture not to talk about it, right?
I think it's part of the culture, but it's also, I think as a humans, we don't know how to talk about this in general. Like we tend to escape so many things. Some people don't even can admit, that they ate a chocolate last night, even though they have a high sugar tolerance. Let's be simple. It's just how we are. That shame, that guilt that we carry on from day to day for our own actions, it's kind of gives that frustration to yourself and to people around. And I felt that frustration all the time at the time. And I guess obviously everybody was sad. And, I think the other aspect of it is that you don't know where it will turn, right? Like how uncertainty and then being unknown, I think this is also what puts more tension into all of this.
For sure. Yeah, I think the uncertainty is a big factor. Nobody knows, which way it could go. But so what I'm really hearing from you is that you weren't feeling supported and you weren't getting what you needed from them. And so you were really drawing from within. You were going pretty deep into yourself to try and find an attitude, a perspective to survive, really.
My family put all the resources possible at that time to make me feel good and survive this with the treatments, because it's another factor that if you don't have resources, the chances you survive is really low. Don't
For
forget
sure.
that government doesn't sponsor this, no programs. The countries don't even have the system developed at this stage to help cancer programs. When you're facing something really, life or death kind of situation, you do make a agreement with yourself, and then you stick to your agreement. It doesn't matter, like, is it parents? I actually don't feel like the whole country or the same neighborhood or the same friendship circle is actually was serving me anymore. My values were different. My lifestyle changed. I cannot like wear high heels and a great dress and go drink every night anymore in a great club because I just cannot. My physical, my body, my lifestyle changed. My preferences changed,
You
so
wanted to
it's
be healthy, so you're choosing a healthy lifestyle.
healthy lifestyle, but it's also kind of a lifestyle where you feel like you're completely alone because at that age, everybody's just going out, going on the dates, having fun, experimenting, traveling. I couldn't do that at the time. All the resources were going to my education and to medical system. I didn't date for a while because I didn't feel like I confident enough anymore in the same body and in the same mindset. My friends and I, well, they didn't know much about all of this and I was hiding it. So, when you skip a few times here and there on a mutual dates, like people lose interest talking to you. So it's the whole system. It doesn't just me or my family or my surrounding. I think the whole system was like this.
Felt very isolated.
Yes, you are isolated for sure. And
Mhm.
this is where I think the resilience comes from and the courageous belief comes into the play that we will talk about. And I think this is what people, I think, would be more keen to hear is that it's okay that it happens this way. And it's super scary and super uncomfortable. And you feel like you're never gonna get out of the shell and you will be forever alone. But accepting the fact that you're different and things will be different from now on, I think acceptance is what I will be more interested to talk about and how to find courage and self-esteem, not to lose faith in yourself anymore.
So, how did you do that? Because, I mean, again, as a young woman, you often don't have those tools in your toolbox to deal with those kinds of things. Where did you learn them from? And can you be specific? Like, what were these things that you used to build this resilience?
I think, Chris, that I didn't learn this anywhere from anything. It's something you develop. You literally put yourself on the table and start looking in yourself and every trait that you have and dive deep into each trait and trying to analyze it. Does it serve you? And then if doesn't, put it aside and then create new trait or new habit, new skill set, new hobby. What I did, I just refined and went through all my personality and my traits within that period of time. I
Yeah.
invested all like year, 2, 3, 4, 5 time just in myself. I was doing things that I want to do, any hobbies, any joys, movie nights, going out or not going out, whatever I wanted.
It sounds to me like it was a period of time where you really got to know who you were and what you were made of,
Yes.
right? You discovered who you were, what your value was. And again, I think yeah, what is important to me? What do I believe about myself, and my strength to get through this? Because it takes a lot of maturity as a young person to be able to step away from, the temptation of what everybody else is going through at that time. Like you say, the dating and the parties and all the rest of it. It takes a great deal of maturity to step away from it and go, I can't do that. And I'm choosing a different path because I'm choosing to try and get well. I guess what it says to me is, yeah, you had quite a level of emotional intelligence as a young woman.
As I took emotional intelligence course actually in Capilano University,
Oh, is that
there's a
right?
yeah, well, it happens to be as a part of the business school. I chose one of this course as a fun course, and it became one of the most drastic sadness course I've ever taken, but very life changing. At that time, I was teaching Caroline Stern, one of the most until now, she's the leader speaker of Canada. She actually wrote a book, Emotional Intelligence, and she certified it. And she teaches this across Canada on different TED Talks and massive shows. And at that time, she was just developing this program of emotional intelligence because she believes that people can actually learn the emotional intelligence. And if the companies will integrate this and into the company management,
Culture. Yeah.
and universities will take on this as a business course to take, people will actually be more happy at the workplaces. And in general, it helps really great deal to be emotional intelligent. So we were kind of taking this course like kind of for her to help her to understand it. But for us, it was also like a learning curve. So the whole course was more about doing things like
Hmm.
act on your fear. You write your fear, you go act on it, and then you write a journal about it. And then you give her, this is a homework essay. I went through this fear. It made me this and this and this. Cried a few times at her class because it's just like, this is how she do it. But I think taking her course helped me to realize also like how is it important to be resilient, and you can be resourceful and resilient only if you know yourself from A to Z,
Yeah.
and you actually admitting all your desires and fears and bad habits and good habits and, anything, and be upfront about it. And when you are upfront about it and with ease, it actually creates the aura of good energy around you and nobody can hurt you. Nobody can put you down anymore because it's all out there. You know it about yourself and there is no guilt behind it. And at that time, I was recovering from cancer. I think it was like second, third year. And the fear for me was actually, I was afraid of trusting somebody. I didn't trust anybody with my life. So I went on this indoor climbing, and my colleague at the time invited me to indoor climbing. I was like, wow, indoor climbing sounds so fun. I've never done it before. Like, come on, climb up a few feet, go down. Like, I actually was stuck on top for like 2 hours.
Wow.
I didn't trust the rope to let go. So I took myself so strong on those rocks and pedals. And I was just like, I'm not going down. No, like, so I cried on top of that mountain. I was like so frustrated. Everybody was looking at me, and I'm like, I'm not trusting this rope with my life. No, like I went through so much. This sounds so scary. But eventually I did. That was my journal I wrote to her as my homework. Going through these baby steps of kind of living the life again, especially when I went through like 3-year milestone and 5-year milestone. It helped me to kind of have a fresh air again, breathe in. And I joined yoga classes. I started meditating. I started going for dates once in a while, just for like occasional communication. Started feeling a woman again, accept compliments, receive some good energy and, gifts, and getting to know new people and friendship circles. So, yeah.
Gradually building yourself back up again.
But with the new me.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Your old you was dismantled and you created a new experience for yourself. So I mean, this all has happened to you over the last 10 years or a little more. Where are you today? Obviously we can see that experiencing cancer at such a young age has shaped you into who you are today for sure. So where are you in your life today?
I have this I bought this book a few weeks ago. It's a Homebody by Rupi Kaur. And she writes this interesting poems through that she went through her life. And her chapter Homebody, believe it or not, after you invited me to this podcast, I just opened random page and this poem came up and I'm like, this is a perfect beginning of this podcast. So the poem is, I'm not a victim of my life. What I went through pulled a warrior out of me, and it's my greatest honor to be her.
Nice.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, simple but very succinct.
So I became a warrior.
You did.
And I think it's so amazing to actually understand that wherever we live through, it's in us, it's part of us. And I think what I went through helped me to become who I am today. I am doing, I think, what meant to be mine as my mission of life. I'm so grateful and I am so confident to say that I found my mission in life by my 30th birthday, I opened a wellness yoga studio in Vancouver because I felt the need to give people energy, resources, love, self-esteem, confidence, nourishment, a safe space to feel really good about themselves. And I'm a mom of a 2-year-old that I've been dreaming about. I always knew I'm going to be a mom. That's also taught me a profound lessons of what is it to be a mother and how a great mother I can be to my kid, because I see him super happy every day. And that's, I think, the result of our parenthood here in our space. And I'm married. I met a partner, a person that completes me fully in every aspect of my life. We have a bet we will live together until his 69th birthday, and then we will see. But, you know. When he was 69, he would be looking otherwise differently. But so I live in Vancouver. It was my dream since I was 9 years old. I came here first time when I was 9 or 10 years old, actually. No, I was 12. I'm sorry. I was 12 years old. Olympics just was about to start. And I came here for summertime. So Vancouver was my dream home city for a long time as well. I have a Canadian passport. My mother is getting Canadian passport this year. My family is growing. I mean, I'm a happy human.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. I mean, you've been through so much at such a young age. It's like, what I notice in you is you do have the depth and maturity of somebody probably 20 or 30 years older than you, because you have had so much experience already in your life, because you had to grow up very, very quickly as a result of your health challenges. So, I really want to thank you for being on the show. I just want to say to our listeners that as we wrap up this conversation, I really want to take a moment just to acknowledge the incredible journey you've been on, Kate. From facing stage 3 melanoma as a teenager to becoming this really strong, resilient, inspiring young woman that I know. And you're a wife, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur. You've taken your experiences and channeled them into something truly meaningful, by creating that yoga space that is, so much more than just a yoga space. It's really, like you say, it's more of a movement that you're hoping to create here in downtown Vancouver. And it's because it's a place where people can grow spiritually and align their beliefs with their aspirations and cultivate more joy in their lives. So, in many ways, it's a space for self development, healing, and transformation. And that's what your own journey has been. And I've been to the studio, and it is very unique in its style and its approach from any of the other yoga studios I've ever been in. So, I just want to thank you for sharing your story with us today, for your wisdom, and for the inspiration that you're providing so many other women of all ages and backgrounds with. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on Women on the Brink.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, your audience. And I am super grateful for giving this opportunity to share my story, because you are the first person I'm sharing this with on such I wouldn't say like a global level, but it is a global level. That's how I feel for myself today, because I've been keeping it with myself and with my close circle for a very long time. And I finally accept that it is part of my journey and there's nothing to be ashamed of and hide. On the other hand, is actually an inspirational story, and I have to honor it this time of my life, because I'm alive, I'm happy, and it's all possible.
Absolutely. No, thank you. It takes a lot of courage to come forth and be so transparent about the experience. So you can learn more about Kate's yoga studio at spaceandsoul.ca, or if you want to reach out to Kate directly, you can do so at ekvoronkinA@gmail.com. I'll put her details in the show notes as well for you listeners. And as we close out today's episode, I just want to say how grateful I am for this conversation. And her journey is really a powerful reminder of resilience, transformation, and the incredible impact of turning life's challenges into purpose. So if you enjoyed this episode, Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and most importantly, share it with your friends because you never know who might need to hear this story today. And as always, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time for another conversation filled with insight, growth, and the stories that connect us all. Until then, take care and keep moving forward. Thanks for joining, and I want you to know that this isn't just a podcast, this is a movement. So share this information with your friends, and let's go, ladies.